Good morning. It's Tuesday, May 26th, and this is a sports story, sort of. It's a story about a major league involved in a major unintended consequences situation. I'm talking about baseball. I'm talking about the 2020 season, which may or may not come to pass. So this is what took place. Back in March, Major League Baseball and the Players Association reached an agreement over pay for the 2020 season. The league would advance the players a lump sum of $170 million, which the players would divide amongst themselves however they felt appropriate. And if there was no season, the players got to keep that money, but they do not get any more. But if the season is played, players will receive their salaries on a pro rata basis based upon the number of games played. Presumably, whatever the player got out of the $170 million would be backed out of the salary he was going to receive, since the $170 million was deemed to be an advance. Are you with me so far? I hope so. Seems perfectly straightforward. But now the owners are not too keen on it. So we have one owner, Jeff Wilpon of the Mets, one of the most poorly managed teams in baseball, right, is expecting that the players would offer further concessions in the event that the season begins. Now, for a guy who runs a poor organization, he comes up with some reasoning that we're going to follow as to why the players should not get more money or should give back money or whatever hell he's thinking about it. This is part of the unintended consequences. See, he thinks that they have to make a deal with the players. Because if you're playing games and there's no one in the stands, then the economics change. So if Major League Baseball and the players could come to an agreement on how to adjust the economics for that reality, I think it would be a good thing. You know, we have to start to move toward normalcy, and people have to see some sort of hope and light. That's what he said. So I can understand that. I mean, if there's nobody in the seats watching the game and you're not getting revenue, then how do you pay those people exorbitant salaries? You can't. But here's my problem. See, there should have been a revenue sharing arrangement between the players and the teams just for 1 year, just for 2020. Because nobody had any idea how many tickets are going to be sold to 2020 games. If any tickets at all are going to be sold. And to promise players a certain salary ahead of time could leave either party totally overexposed in any kind of extreme outcome. So you'd see this. You got two intelligent, fairly intelligent group of people, and they can't come to an agreement. They don't understand the mechanics. And if they wanted to leave it open-ended or something like that, then they have to specifically say, we're going to leave this open-ended until we see certain situations, and then we expect A and B and C to happen. You know, when you make business deals and you're signing contracts, those things are binding, and you have to be careful, and you have to know exactly what you're doing. But as usual, evil, unintended consequences crop up. And we got totally unprepared people dealing with this. So, now looking at it from the players' side, they got this $170 million, but that's only about 4% of the overall payroll from 2019. So it's obvious to me that the players were gambling that when the season started, they would get the appropriate prorated salary for the remainder of the season. Say they made $1 million a year and there's 50% of the season left, that means they would get paid $500,000. I'm sure that's what they were thinking. I'm sure they didn't even consider the fact that the stands were empty and where was the revenue coming from, et cetera, et cetera. They just figured there was a fair payoff, a prorated payoff at the end, because there's nothing specified in this document. Anyhow, now it's time for these two organizations, the owners and the players, to come together and create something that's fair on both sides. But that's very difficult because they've had bloody battles over the years. Because if you go way back and you remember the reserve clauses and the way they used to treat players, there's a lot of bad blood between these two groups. So it's probably that, maybe they got to get to the bargaining table again and sit down and everybody sort of pencil in when the new opening day is going to happen. And they got to try to reinvent the wheel, figure out a way that's going to satisfy both parties. And since a lot of them are going to look at and said, we already have a deal, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. The owners initiated the deal, and they have a track record of trying to suck up players whenever possible. And the players have overcome that through lawsuits and some other things. And I don't know that players have ever been concerned with the metric of revenue. So it's going to be very hard to capture the right group of facts and agree upon anything that seems to be outside the known information, so to speak. So I think that the season will get underway, but it won't be easy, and I don't think either side's going to be particularly happy with the outcome. And it won't be exciting if the fans are not in the seats. So there you go again with the group of people who should know better, but don't figure out all the angles. What else can I say? It's time to go. See you tomorrow.